Hello there, welcome to Dan the Gaming Man. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I noticed this is very popular on YouTube and I thought I'd try it, see if this was something that my viewers would enjoy. We're going to take a look at some of the famous gaming mascots from the last probably 30-40 years. And we're going to rank them, we're going to see which is the best, which is the worst, and everything in between. Of course, this is basically my opinion. I'm going to try and be as unbiased as possible. I have my favourites and I'll try and put them in the order that I think is probably fair. And of course, if you don't agree with my picks, then you can comment below and tell me where you would rank some of these fantastic gaming mascots. So let's get started. First up, we have Alex Kidd. So Alex Kidd, for me, is a Sega Master System mascot, and I know he was one of the early mascots on the Sega Mega Drive as well. I'm going to place him in the B tier, I think. Not as famous as some of the other guys that we're going to be taking a look at today, but he definitely holds a place in gaming history. He was a character for one of the big flagship games. Next up, this is Blinx, I believe, who was an Xbox mascot. I don't know if anybody remembers him. For me, not a very memorable mascot, so I'm going to put him down here in the D tier. It's our first D tier. I don't know if there'll be many because I'm looking at the bottom and I can see there's some fantastic mascots to come. So I'm not sure if Blinx will have any company later on. But yeah, not particularly memorable. I think the game that he comes from is called Blinx and the Time Sweeper. Or was it the Timekeeper? I'm not sure, but yeah, not one of the best. Next up we have Bomberman. This one just makes me think of the 90s. I think everyone loved this game back then. It was a game that I believe the original was out in 1983, so a bit of an anniversary year last year for the makers of this, who are of course Konami, and I believe that Bomberman would be considered one of the Konami mascots. So Super Bomberman is probably my favourite, although it was available on pretty much every platform, wasn't it? I'm pretty sure that you could get this on the Sega Mega Drive, and yeah, just everything. I think that they've been on the Switch, Game Boy Advance, yeah. So for me, I think this is a B tier. It's up there with Alex the Kidd for me. When we get to the end, I might reorganise people. We can have a bit of a discussion as to who's the best. Next one we've got is Bubsy. Not a favourite of mine. I'm not sure when the first Bubsy game came out, but I think that it was a 16-bit era character and possibly made it across to the 3D platformers such as PlayStation, possibly. Might have been on the N64, but yeah, definitely on the PlayStation, I believe. For me, it's a D tier, and yeah, if you don't agree with that, then let me know in the comments. Next up we have Cloud. Cloud obviously is from the Final Fantasy series. I'm going to pop Cloud up in the A tier for the moment. I think Final Fantasy is just such a iconic game series, isn't it? Everybody has probably played it at some point, whether you love it or hate it. I never really got into it back when it was originally out. I think I did play Final Fantasy X, which I assume is the 10th game in the series. And yeah, I really enjoyed that at the time, 20 odd years ago. But for me, whether I am a big Final Fantasy fan or not, I have to acknowledge that Cloud is an iconic gaming mascot, and for that reason, I'm going to place him in A tier. Next up, we've got Crash Bandicoot. Crash is of course one of the Sony PlayStation mascots, and for me, probably our first contender for a S tier, but I'm actually going to place him in the A tier. Again, very iconic character, has got a lot of love recently as well. I think they've done a remaster of the original games, and yeah, Crash Team Racing was another classic, bit like Super Mario Kart, and yeah, just a brilliant character. Those games were so different. I remember for me, it was the first time playing a 3D platformer, barring maybe Super Mario 64. I think it was the first time I played a platform, certainly the first 3D platformer that I owned, and it was just amazing at the time. Having gone from playing the Sonic games on the Sega Mega Drive and then playing Crash on PlayStation 1, it was just a real step up, and yeah, kind of blew my mind at the time. And I will always have a soft spot for Crash Bandicoot. It's one of the first games I owned. In fact, I think when I got the PlayStation for Christmas, it came with 4 games, and Crash Bandicoot was one of them. So yeah, a lot of nostalgia for this guy, but yeah, it's A tier for me. Croc, another character that's from the PlayStation, and I think this is going to be a C tier for me, our first C tier. Yeah, Croc. I remember one of the PlayStation magazines, I used to get one every month, and one of them came with loads of Croc stickers. I didn't actually own the game at the time, but I played the demo, and I have since played a couple of the games. I think one of them's called Legend of the Gobos, or Gobos, and yeah, it's just, again, a 3D platformer. There was a lot of games like that at the time, wasn't there? It's silly fun, but of course the franchise is all but dead now. I'm not sure when the last time they released a Croc game would be, but yeah, it's a C tier. Perhaps not down in the D, but it's definitely a lower C. Donkey Kong, again, another iconic gaming mascot, and it's very difficult to know where to place this one. Is it S tier? It's definitely potentially an S tier, but I'm going to put him A tier. Donkey Kong, the original arcade game, was released in 1981, and it's the game that gave us Mario, of course. And Donkey Kong has been a big mascot for Nintendo ever since. And obviously in the 90s he had a series of successful games as well, like Donkey Kong Country, and has appeared in the Super Mario Kart games. And I would assume is one of the characters in Super Smash Bros., even though I don't actually play that myself. But for me, he's an A. Again, I think there's a couple of iconic characters that have to take the top spot in S tier. So we have to put some people in A. People? Are they people? Some characters in A tier, so that's where Donkey Kong's going to find himself. Next, we've got Gex the Gecko. And again, it probably, for me, a little bit of nostalgia here. I place him in the C tier. Not quite D tier, but it's a lower C again. And again, it was one of those 3D platformers around the late 90s that we seem to get a lot of, such as Croc, who's next to him, fittingly. And I remember the one game was called Gex Enter the Gecko, and that's the one that I played, which I believe is the sequel, and it was on the PlayStation, the N64, and I played that one. And on the front cover, he's dressed up like James Bond, 007. Yeah, good game, entertaining, again, silly humour, great for kids, possibly not for kids, I'm not sure, but I liked it at the time. Kirby, this is a character that came around in the early 90s in Kirby's Dream Land, which I think was released in 1992. I remember playing that on the Game Boy. It's one that I might get a bit of stick for. I'm actually going to say Kirby is a B tier mascot. I think some people would rank Kirby a little bit higher, maybe A, and some might even think Kirby belongs in the top spot as an S tier mascot. But for me, I was never really a big fan. I never really got it, to be perfectly honest, and I have played a few Kirby games, but I have to acknowledge that Kirby is not C, he's not D tier. He's one of the more famous mascots from the Nintendo, so we have to, for that reason, put him in the B tier. Lara Croft. Of course, the Tomb Raider games were very popular in the late 90s when the PlayStation came out, and I think it's our first female character. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below, but yeah, I'm going to place Lara Croft as a B tier as well. I know that the Tomb Raider games were very popular, and I know that there's been a bit of a reboot of them in recent years, and again, that's increased their popularity once more. But for me, I would say that Crash was the PlayStation mascot over Lara Croft. Link, or is it Zelda? Only joking. Yeah, Link is S tier, of course. Yeah, putting Link anywhere else would feel wrong, to be honest. Probably when I finish the tier list, Link might not be the top pick for the S tier, but definitely deserves to be up there. Recently I did an unboxing of a Legend of Zelda Game & Watch. I'll put a card in the top corner if you want to check that out. Next up we've got Sackboy, who's the mascot from the series Little Big Planet, which was released in 2008 on the Sony PlayStation 3. First game I think I bought on that system. And although I do love Sackboy, I'm going to place him in C tier. It was a great series, and they released quite a few in a short space of time between 2008 and 2014. But the last game they released on console in the series was Sackboy: A Big Adventure, which came out 4 years ago. Although they did have a mobile game called Ultimate Sackboy last year, which I probably wouldn't go near because I'm not really into mobile gaming. But yeah, it's a shame that the series kind of sort of fell away a little bit. It's not as popular as it once was, and for that reason Sackboy is going to be a C tier gaming mascot. Next up we've got Marcus Fenix, who's from the Gears of War series, so this is another Xbox mascot, I suppose. At the time when they came out, I wasn't really into the Gears of War series, but I have played them since thanks to the Game Pass, and they are, for me, the best third-person shooters that I've ever played, although I do have a soft spot for Mass Effect, which obviously has third-person shooter elements as well. But for me, I'm going to put him... I don't know. Lara Croft probably is a bit higher than him, so I'm going to place him in the C tier. So, is that a controversial pick? I don't know, let me know in the comments below. So Mario is obviously a B tier along with Lara Croft and Kirby, and I'll tell you why. I'm joking. Straight into the S tier. Mario, the most iconic of all gaming mascots. There's so many great Mario games, there's one or two that are not so great, but generally, you know you're getting quality. If you pick up any Mario game, you're going to have a lot of fun, and probably the most recognisable, even if you're not into video games, if you show a picture of Mario to a small child that's never played a game, or your parents or your grandparents, they'll know who Mario is. Everybody knows this character, and for me, S tier. Master Chief is next, another Xbox mascot, I suppose, certainly from Halo. It's a very recognisable character. I'm going to place in the B tier. Again, similar to Gears of War, I didn't really play Halo when it first came out. I can remember it being a big thing at the time. Lots of my friends were into it. I started PlayStation when my friends had Xbox. It was obviously huge, wasn't it, when it came out? But I have played it thanks to the Game Pass. Brilliant series, great games. So, B tier, just edging Marcus Fenix from Gears of War. Next up we have Mega Man, who I believe would be a Capcom mascot. Available on most of the systems. Again, this is a character that popped up just about everywhere. This is a very difficult one for me to place. I'm stuck between A and B. I've got a lot of characters in B. This is where it's getting difficult. I really don't know. I'm going to go with B, I think. I might change that. Yeah. I really enjoy the Mega Man games. If you are a fan of run and gun games, then you need to check them out if you haven't already. I'm sure you have. But next we've got Pac-Man. Pac-Man again is a really iconic gaming mascot. But is he S tier? I'm going to put Pac-Man as an A tier mascot, just because we've got a lot in B, haven't we? Yeah, not quite on par with Mario. Partly because I don't think there's been so many Pac-Man games in recent years. Although everybody knows Pac-Man, another household name. But for me, probably an A tier. Not quite up there with Link and Mario, unfortunately. Parappa the Rapper. Remember this game? Kick, punch, it's all in the mind. I think that was one of the songs. And I had a friend who was really into this when it came out. But again, it's a franchise that's just disappeared. I don't know if there's been any in recent years, but I don't think Sony have released any Parappa the Rapper games since the late 90s when the original one came out. Was there a sequel? I can't quite remember. Where would you place him? I'm going to go with C tier. Not quite a D tier. It's lower C tier, I think. But yeah, who remembers that game? You have to let me know in the comments if you were a fan of Parappa the Rapper. Pikachu, this is another one that I'm going to put in A tier. For me, I think I'm probably a little bit too old to have been into Pokemon. Well, certainly when I was at school, I think the guys that were a year or two below me were really into Pokemon. And people my age just didn't quite get into it at the same level. I've got a few friends now that are a couple of years younger than me that have a lot of nostalgia for Pokemon. And I do recognise that it is an incredibly popular franchise. And Pikachu is, although maybe not the most popular of the Pokemon, is definitely the most recognisable. And I'm going to place Pikachu in the A tier for that reason. A's, I think, fair. Again, if you don't agree, let me know in the comments. Rayman, this is going to be quite a difficult one to place as well. Rayman was hugely popular, wasn't it, when it came out in the late 90s on the PlayStation. And I know that they have had a few games released in recent years, possibly remasters, I'm not sure. But Rayman, I'm going to place as a B tier mascot. Slightly better than all the ones in C tier, perhaps, as a mascot. I'm not sure though. Lower B, upper C, but I'm going to keep him in B for now. So next we've got Ryu from Street Fighter. Big fan of the series. I've mentioned them before in my top 10 videos. So if you've seen those before, you'll know I really do like Street Fighter. Ryu is A tier for me. Definitely the most recognisable of all the fighting game characters. Arguably, I don't know, Sub-Zero could be a potential opponent for that title, I don't know, but yeah, for me Ryu is A tier. Next it's Sonic, and Sonic goes straight up to S tier, of course. Sonic is probably second to Mario as being the most recognisable of all gaming mascots, and although some of the more recent Sonic games haven't been well received by critics and fans, I would argue that the series overall is a lot of fun, and particularly if you go back to the 2D era of Sonic in the 90s, there's some incredible games in the franchise, so he deserves to be in the S tier. Spyro the Dragon, a bit like Crash, was a very popular character on the Sony PlayStation. For me, this is a hard one to place. It's A or B. I'm going to go B tier. I think Crash is a little bit better than Spyro, so that's the reason why Spyro finds himself a little bit lower. This one is the hardest one for me to do. This is Vault Boy. I would say that Fallout is my favourite game series of all time. I absolutely love it, and as much as I'd love to put Vault Boy up there in the S tier, I am trying to be impartial and trying to be fair, and I'm sorry to overload the B tier, but I'm going to put Vault Boy in the B tier. One of my favourite things is some people call him Fallout Boy, which I believe is an emo band, so a little bit different. But yes, Vault Boy is one of my favourite characters. I have a few Vault Boy toys lying around the house. Yes, I'm in my late 30s. But yeah, I'm going to have to say B tier if I'm being fair. There are more iconic characters than him. So let's rank them in their tiers. I think Bubsy is a little bit better than Blinx, in my opinion. Marcus Fenix goes up to the number 1 spot in the C tier, and I think I'll probably put Parappa the Rapper in third, and we'll drop Croc just below Gex, with Sackboy taking the second spot. This tier is really difficult. There's so many iconic characters here. Lara Croft maybe at the top spot, Master Chief as well, Mega Man, and Kirby. This is where I'm gonna put Vault Boy up a little bit. I'll put Vault Boy there and put Spyro ahead of Rayman, but pretty much a fair order. Do you agree? This is a tough one. For me, Crash and Donkey Kong need to be ahead of Cloud. I'll put Pac-Man after Cloud. Do you know what, I'm going to put Ryu in third, and I'm going to put Pikachu ahead of Pac-Man. That's going to be my ranking. For this, it's going to be Mario in first, Sonic in second, and Link in third. So that's my tier. I'm quite happy with it. I'll put a link below in the description so you can have a go at ranking these yourself. Obviously, anything you disagree with, let me know in the comments below. If you've enjoyed the video, give me a like, particularly because I want to know if people like these tier videos. If you do, I will be doing more of them in the future. Also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It really does mean a lot to me and keeps me motivated to make more videos. And I just want to apologise for my voice today. I've been quite ill the last few days, but I want to stay consistent and get a video up each week, so that's why I've recorded today. Thank you for watching. Until next time, stay safe and keep gaming.